Hi again. Yeah, I left off where I was at the airport trying to get back home, and my boss was gonna be showing up on a flight at 7:45, and I forgot to say that that picture that I had taken of my face after I got beat up, my father actually had deleted it because I was trying to pull it up to show some people I was telling. So he wouldn't give me a straight answer as to why he deleted it, but anyway. So I'm at the gate waiting to get on my flight, and after a while, I see the stepson come in, and he's waiting at my gate. I'm thinking, why is this guy here? Like, he must be following me or something. He's got no reason to be here. And so then, I don't know if it was that night that I saw the uncle or the next night, but I got on my flight. I see the stepson get on my flight, so that's got me pretty worried. And then I see the uncle also get on the flight, so I'm like, I'm out of here. So I tell him I got to get off this flight. I get off the flight, and they're like telling me, oh, none of these guys' names are on the flight and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, I saw them. They're there. I know they're there. So I ended up getting out of there and going to spend the night at a motel for the night. And so the next day I went back to use the same ticket at that same airport in Kona, and so those guys show up again. I was in a little restaurant eating some nachos. Those guys, after I was done eating, they start to show up, but this time the stepson had like shaved his arms, had his tattoos covered up, had like makeup on his face. I'm not really gonna get into all that because it's gonna sound way too crazy, but he also had a female escort with him. I mean, it was pretty elaborate. That made me freak out. So I was, and they were with a bunch of other people too. Like I didn't know who these other people were. Some like Hawaiian gangster looking dudes or something. And then I saw the uncle show up for sure that time. He showed up. He was in there at the gate, and so I was in a little restaurant, like, and his stepson came and sat like right next to me because I told him, get the airport police in here, and I was telling him, yeah, this guy right here in the yellow hat's following me, and this is his name, and da 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 da, and I had a chance to have the officer talk to him, but I was so pumped full of adrenaline and so fearful with everything happening. It seemed like a nightmare come true. I took off. I said, I got to get out of here. So I took off, and I ended up getting a taxi and going to all the way to Hilo. It was like a $350 taxi ride, and the taxi driver was really cool. And I started to notice vehicles following us, and it's really hard to tell sometimes when you're in that heightened sense of fear and adrenaline, but there were definitely some people following us, and we actually I told him to take some other routes, and I ended up telling him what was going on and telling him I was being followed, and he was pretty freaked out after that. I mean, I felt bad for doing that to the guy. I really did, but I had to have him know, because we were going to have to make little detours through neighborhoods and keep our eyes open for people and stuff like that. So and then it was such a weird thing, and I was telling my father on the phone where I was going and stuff, and keeping him updated because I trusted him, and so we ended up going to McDonald's to go to the drive-through, because I mean it was like hours of driving to get to Hilo, to that airport. And so we run through McDonald's drive-through, and lo and behold, in the truck in front of us in the drive-through is the uncle, and he's like giving me the evil eye. And I'm just thinking, what in the hell is going on? How do they know where I am? I mean, we were hours away from the Kona airport, and they followed me that whole way. So that was really disturbing. So then I told the taxi driver too. I was like, this is one of the guys that's been following me. And I mean, he was visibly shaken up. He was like, ah. But he was way cool. I mean, that guy just held it together for me, and I really appreciated that. So we go and we get out of there, and I'm like, crap, these guys know where I am. I go over here, go circle around through this neighborhood. So we circled around through a few neighborhoods, and then I got on the floor of the cab, and just so nobody could see me, and I was like, just take me to a hotel somewhere like close to the airport. So he takes me to a hotel. I go in there, sign in, get the cab driver paid, and he was really a gentleman. I mean, he really held it together for me, and I felt really bad about doing that to him. But I was afraid for my life. I thought these guys were coming after me to kill me. So I'm staying in that hotel. I ended up staying there for like a few days, and I'm communicating with my dad where I am, and so when I'm ready to go get my flight in Hilo, I remember my father saying, "Oh, send me a picture of your plane ticket." And I was thinking, why does he need a picture of my plane ticket? I think that was when I was going to get one for LAX, when I ended up changing, because he was going to pick me up in LAX. When I was thinking, why would he need a picture of my? All he needs is to know like what arrival I'm going to be at. He doesn't need a picture of my plane ticket. So I didn't think too much into it at the time. So I trusted him. So I ended up flying to Honolulu, and these guys were there, the stepson, the uncle, and they were there with other people, escorts, female escorts, other people I didn't recognize that I could see him communicating with. Excuse me. And so I transferred in Honolulu to go to Maui. Went to Maui and got to Maui, and then it's like I was trying to fly to LAX from Maui, and the first time I did, I was actually on the plane. I knew these guys were on there with me, and I was like, I'm just gonna try and relax as much as possible, even though I was freaked out. And so I was just sitting there, and some lady comes on, and she's like, "Oh, you have to get off this flight. She's like, the pilot doesn't want you on his airplane and stuff." And I was thinking, why is that? And so I get off there, and they're like, "Yeah, you have to go to the ER or the hospital and get a medical evaluation so you can fly." So I'm like, why would that be? I mean, yeah, I have been telling all the airport police these people are following me. Maybe that's why. And one thing I noticed is that the airport police were like asking me, "Are you an agent, or are you like a rock star?" Or I'm like, "No, man, I'm a construction worker. I don't know what is going on. Like, why these people are following me?" I mean, I figure it's because I took off, and maybe these guys thought I was going to get them in trouble, and now they're coming after me to try and kill me or kidnap me or whatever. But so anyway, and my dad knows where I am the whole time, and so I go to the hospital. I'm getting the medical evaluation and answering the questions, and then the psychiatrist comes in, you know, after all the nurses, and he's like, in his little psychiatrist voice, he's like, well, I know that you believe that you're seeing these things, but in reality you're just imagining them. And I'm just like, no man, no I'm not. I mean, I'm sober during the day. I drank a couple times just to get some sleep, but like when I'm at the airport and all that, I was sober. And he's just like, just wasn't listening to me. He's just like, his mind was already made up, and he's like, he'd been talking to my father on the phone, and my father was actually had been telling him I was crazy, and which is gaslighting, if you know what that means. So he ends up releasing me and telling you know, diagnosing me as paranoid delusional, which is total bullshit. You know, psych buzzwords, crapola that I don't buy, and give me a prescription for some kind of whatever, you know, the drugs that make you suicidal. Just a waste of time. And so so I go the next day. I think what I did was I spent the night again somewhere, and I went the next day to get on my flight, and those guys are there again, and I'm just like, man, I took a picture of I tried to take a picture of the stepson as he walked by. He turned his head real quick, walked real fast out the back doors of that area of the airport before I could point him out to the police. And so then I saw another troll like eyeballing me, that I had seen at a bunch of the other airports and flights. I'm like, I know this guy's following me. So I probably stood up about 15 feet away from the guy, aimed the camera right at him, and took a picture of him. And he tried to turn his head, but it's like he didn't even get offended or anything. He didn't even say anything because he knew what he was doing. So that's one thing I notice about these people, is that you can do offensive things to them, and it's like they won't even, they'll try to turn their head or whatever, but they won't ask you why you're taking a picture of them like a normal person would. So I get on my flight. I'm seeing these guys, and I texted my father and said, hey, have the police ready. These guys are on, when I get to LA, these guys are on my flight again. So I can point these guys out. And he's like, well, I'm just gonna play it by ear. And I'm thinking, well, fuck, okay. So I'm on the flight, and I'm seeing these guys in the seats in front of me, and I'm actually taking pictures of the backs of their heads. That was the best I could do with what I had at the time. And I did tell one of the flight attendants what was going on, and about them following me, and let the pilot know, you know, let the police know when we land, and so we planned it all out, and I actually gave them their seat numbers and everything, and they were like trying to pull their names up, and they're like, oh, these guys have different names. So whatever that was, but I knew it was them. And so my time's about to run out, so I'm going to continue on part 3.